Of the Bay Area Commuter Benefits Program. My name is Tom Flanagan, a Public Information Officer with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and I'm joined today by representatives from 3 different agencies here to help you understand the Commuter Benefits Program and comply with the regulation. Our 4 presenters include Dave Birch and Jackie Winkle from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, Christine Maley-Grubel from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and Lynna Furness from 511 Regional Rideshare Program. After our presentation, we welcome webinar viewers to ask questions to the panel by typing questions in the GoToMeeting box on their computer screen. I'll have more details on that at the end of this webinar. It's important to all of us here that you have all of the resources you need to comply with the regulation, and we're here to help you. You can always visit 511.org and click on the Commuter Benefits Program link for additional information and resources. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dave Birch to start us off.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy morning to spend a little bit of time with us to learn more about the Commuter Benefit Program. So what we'd like to cover today in our presentation is to talk a little bit about the objectives and the anticipated outcomes of the program, who's covered by the program, what are the key requirements. We'll walk you through the 4 commuter benefit options that you can choose from, and we'll tell you a little bit about the resources and assistance that are available to help you understand the regulation and comply with the program. And then most importantly of all, we want to answer your questions once the presentation's completed. So by way of background, the Bay Area Commuter Benefit Program is now in effect, and this took the form of a new regulation that was adopted by the Air District Board of Directors in March and then ratified by the MTC Commission. So this program is now in effect. This was developed pursuant to Senate Bill 1339, which was approved by the legislature and signed by the governor in 2012 with considerable support from the business community. This whole effort is modeled on local ordinances that have been adopted and implemented in several Bay Area cities in recent years. That includes the city of San Francisco, the city of Berkeley, the city of Richmond, as well as San Francisco International Airport. We've been working closely with those cities right from the start to make sure that we're coordinating our program with those local ordinances. And essentially the way we've agreed to cooperate is that employers that are subject to the regional program that we're describing here this morning, by virtue of having 50 or more employees in the Bay Area, will report to the regional program. These local ordinances typically have a lower threshold of 10 or 20 employees, and so if you're in one of these cities and you are below the threshold but would still be subject to those local ordinances, then you would continue to work with the staff in those cities. We went through a considerable rulemaking process to get input from employers as we developed this program, and we appreciate those of you that gave us your input during that process. So employers will need to comply by September 30th of this year by selecting and providing one of the 4 commuter benefit options. This program is currently a pilot program, meaning that we were authorized to implement it through the end of 2016. Toward the end of the program, we will be summarizing the results of the program and reporting to the legislature in terms of what's the outcome been in terms of expanding the number of employers that offer commuter benefits, how many employees have taken advantage of those benefits, and what is the outcome of the program been in terms of reducing vehicle trips to Bay Area work sites and reducing emissions. What we're trying to do with this program in a real simple form is to take advantage of federal commuter tax benefits that have already been in existence for some time. And many employers already make those benefits available. Those federal tax benefits can provide considerable savings both to employers in the form of reduced payroll taxes as well as to employees who have a lower net cost for transit or van pools. There's a solid body of evidence that shows that employers can in fact influence their employees' commute mode choice, and so what we're trying to do here is essentially expand the number of employers in the region that make some type of commuter benefit available to their employees. We certainly recognize that many Bay Area employers already have a very good commuter benefit programs, and we're not really trying to raise the bar on existing programs that are already in place and effective, but we do want to make sure that all employers provide at least a modest commuter benefit program. The overall outcome we're looking for is to reduce vehicle trips in order to improve air quality, reduce emissions of greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, and certainly one of the other key outcomes here is to reduce traffic congestion during peak periods. I don't think it's a mystery to anyone that Bay Area has some of the highest traffic congestion levels of any region in the country. So let's talk a little bit about who needs to comply with the program. This program applies to employers that have 50 or more full-time employees in the Bay Area. When we say Bay Area, we're talking about the 9-county Bay Area, with the exception of eastern Solano County and northern Sonoma County. Those areas are outside of the Air District jurisdiction. When we say employer, we're talking about anyone who has people on their payroll. So it's private businesses, public agencies, nonprofit organizations are all covered. The count of 50 full-time employees is based on all Bay Area work sites combined. So even if an employer does not have 50 employees at a single work site, if they have more than 50 at all their Bay Area work sites combined, then they would in fact be subject to the regulation. So what do we mean when we say an employee for purposes of this program? An employee is essentially anyone who receives a W-2 form for tax purposes. We mentioned the term full-time employees. That's employees who work at least 30 hours per week. That's how we define full-time employees for purposes of the program. There are a couple of exemptions in that definition that we'll discuss in just a moment. Another key term in the regulation is what we call covered employees. So an employer is subject to the program if they have more than 50 full-time employees in the region. If they are then subject to the regulation, then they need to offer the commuter benefit that they select to all covered employees, meaning all employees who work at least 20 or more hours per week. In terms of those exemptions in the employee definition, essentially there's two key exemptions. One is that seasonal or temporary employees who work 120 days per year or less are exempt from the employee definition. And then field employees, as we define it, are also exempt from the employee definition. And if you want details on that, you can click on the compliance advisory there. But essentially, any employee who does not report to a permanent work site or does not report to a work site and pick up an employer-provided vehicle to go out into the field would be considered a field employee and not subject to the regulation. Employers are certainly free to offer benefits to these exempt employees, but they're not required to under the rules of the program. So employers should take a look at these exemptions and these definitions to make sure how to classify people for purposes of making their employee count. In terms of our objectives with implementing the program, right from the beginning, we've been very concerned about maximizing flexibility for employers. We want to make sure that employers can select a commuter benefit that will make sense for your business, for your employees, based on the nature of your business, where you're located, what types of commute alternatives are available, whether you have transit service at your work site, all those things that will be important in terms of selecting an appropriate benefit that will make sense for your company. We've also been keenly aware of the need to minimize reporting and administrative requirements. So we've really tried to make that aspect of the program as simple as possible, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. And we've also recognized from the beginning that outreach to employers is going to be critical to provide information and resources to help you understand and comply with the program requirements. So that's been one of our key priorities as well. The program requirements are really pretty straightforward. What it boils down to is that by September 30th of this year, employers that are subject to the program will need to select and provide one of the 4 commuter benefit options that we'll be describing in just a moment. You'll need to designate someone who we're calling a commuter benefits coordinator. Essentially, that's just the person that you task with reporting and registering for purposes of the program. We anticipate that in most cases that will be an existing employee in your human resources unit. Employer then needs to register online. And then another key requirement is that once you've selected your benefit, you need to notify your employees about that benefit and how to make that commuter benefit available, or how they can take advantage of that benefit. We will need information for purposes of preparing that report to the legislature. We anticipate being able to get most of that from the registration process. One key point here is that there are no performance standards in this program. What we mean by that is that the employer we're asking you to provide a commuter benefit to your employees, but you're not going to be held accountable for how many employees choose to take advantage of that benefit. So there's no numerical standards or targets that apply. So that's a brief overview of the key aspects of the program. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Jackie Winkle. Jackie's going to talk to you, walk you through the 4 commuter benefit options, and then we'll tell you about some of the employer assistance that we have available as well.
Thank you, Dave. So the program provides employers with the flexibility to choose from one of 4 commuter benefit options to offer to their employees. Option 1, the pre-tax option, is the option that is anticipated to be the most widely selected among employers. And in fact, based on current information that we have regarding employers that have already registered with us, it is the most widely selected option. So option 1 is very similar to a flexible spending account, or FSA. Many people are very familiar with how that works. Basically, if an employer chooses option 1, they would be allowing their employees to exclude their monthly transit or van pool costs from their taxable wages in the amount of up to $130 per month. So option 1 can save both the employer and employee money. Employers can save on payroll taxes, which is their share of the matching Social Security and Medicare tax, which amounts to an approximate 8% in savings on pre-tax dollars. Employees can also save quite a bit of money. They will save on their share of the Social Security and Medicare tax, and they will also not pay state or federal income taxes. So they can save around 40%, more or less, on their monthly transit or van pool costs. One important point about option 1 is that it is a great way for both employers and employees to save money, but it's only available to employees if their employer allows them to make that pre-tax deduction. So the employer or the employee cannot opt into the savings without the employer's help. So option 2 is a step further, and that the employer would provide a direct subsidy to reduce or cover the employee's monthly transit or van pool costs. The maximum subsidy required for option 2 is $75 per month, or the cost of the employee's monthly transit or van pool costs, whichever is lower. That being said, the employer can certainly choose to offer a higher subsidy if they so choose. Option 2, the subsidy under option 2 is also pre-tax to both employers and employees, as allowed by the IRS as well. Option 3 is employer-provided transportation, such as a bus, shuttle, or van pool service. And option 4 is an alternative commuter benefit option. So option 4 is, next slide please. Option 4 is a good option for employers that are located in areas with limited transit service. Option 4 was designed to provide increased flexibility to employers, to provide an increased range of choices, as well as to promote alternative commute modes such as carpooling, bicycling, and walking that are not captured under options 1, 2, or 3. So the way option 4 works is that the alternative must be as effective as options 1, 2, or 3. The employer can propose their own alternative benefit, which they would then submit to our agencies for review and approval. Or the employer can select from a menu of measures and choose to offer what we're calling a pre-approved alternative. If an employer chooses to provide a pre-approved alternative, they would not need to submit that to our agencies for review. So this next slide shows our menu-style approach to the pre-approved alternatives. We've identified two pre-approved options, option 4A and option 4B. So in option 4A, the employer would choose one primary measure from the left column along with two secondary measures from the right column. And option 4B, the employer would choose from four secondary options. So when developing this menu-style approach, we really made an effort to identify measures that are flexible, that can work in a variety of different workplaces and work settings, and that are also low cost. As you can see, some of the primary measures are a bit more robust, which is why we included that option to do option 4B, which would be for an employer to select only secondary measures. We realize that this menu of measures can look a bit daunting at first, but from our experience, we understand that employers have found it helpful to have these plug-and-play, so to speak, options. It's given employers an idea of what is a viable alternative option, and we're also providing ample assistance to employers in identifying what sorts of measures could work best for their work site. So we have Linda Furness here available to talk with you more about that. And one other point I'd like to make is that with the pre-approved options, the employers, when registering online, can choose option 4A or 4B as easily and simply as registering for options 1, 2, or 3. And I'm going to turn it over to Christine, who will talk us through the registration process in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, Jackie. A key role of MTC in collaboration with the Air District for this program is to provide use of the 511.org website and 511 phone to provide employer outreach and assistance. A key part of employer assistance is to enable employers to easily register for this program online. Company headquarters received a notice to register from the Air District at the launch of this program back in March. A second letter is being provided to these employers this week, those that have not yet registered. Included with the notice is an employer ID. This ID is used to enter the registration process. Employers through their headquarters are asked to designate a staff person to register all San Francisco Bay Area work sites that are required to register. For employers who receive this notice and have less than 50 employees, please use the registration form to report even if you have fewer than 50 employees. This will only require completing the first screen of the registration process. For those employers who are registering, we've endeavored to make this process as easy as possible. Please plan to report the following on your registration form. Bay Area worksite location, the employee count, commuter benefit option that you're selecting for your employees, and how employees will be notified. Once you've confirmed the commuter benefit option that will be provided to employees, this process should take a minimal amount of time to complete. In addition to the registration process, MTC, in collaboration with the Air District, has put together a website landing page to provide all the information that would be needed for an employer to determine what would be the best commuter benefit option to select. I'll describe this on the next slide, but in addition to the employer assistance materials, there's contact information for local employer outreach staff for assistance, as well as the large registration button that you saw on the website landing page, which is what an employer will click on to register for the program. There were a number of employer assistance materials that were put together, including a detailed employer guide to provide details on the program overview, and in addition to the details of the commuter benefit options that an employer could provide, as well as more information about registering for the program. An option 4 guide was also developed to provide details on all the primary and secondary measures and the 3 different selections an employer could choose from, including option 4A, B, or C. A frequently asked questions document based on feedback received at the public workshops and also from employers as to what would be most beneficial for them as they try to determine the best commuter benefit option to select for their employees. There are profiles as well of employer programs, employers that already have a program in place, to provide more details to other employers as they select the commuter benefit option for their work site or work sites. In addition, you'll find a video on the website landing page of some employer program overviews of employer programs that are already in place, and also to demonstrate how to register for the program. There is a phone helpline for employers, so employers can call 511 and say commuter benefits, and they'll be directed to the helpline, which is available at the 511 Regional Rideshare Program office. There is free employer assistance available in each county, and those are noted here on this slide. You can contact these individuals by looking at the website landing page under the Needs Assistance section and click on the contact information. I'm going to now turn over this presentation to Linda Furness to talk a little bit more in detail about the 501 Regional Rideshare Program and what they have to offer to employers.
Hi, 511 Employer Services representatives are available to help employers throughout the Bay Area implement Bay Area commuter benefits programs. What we do is help with the program development and design. We also can help you determine what programs make the most sense to offer. We provide customizable online and paper surveys along with survey reports from the results of the surveys and recommendations based upon your survey results. We can simply help you evaluate your work locations and what options make the most sense to provide at each of your locations. In addition, we provide density mapping to determine where your employees are commuting from, whether carpools or van pools make sense. If you're looking at shuttle programs, what areas are best for that, in addition to being able to see what transit options are available along each of your employees' commutes. We provide van pool formation. We have 2 van pool consultants who can help you through the process of setting up and forming van pools, in addition to providing van pool incentives to help van pools get started and van pool subsidies to help keep them on the road when they are down passengers. We provide the carpool and van pool ride matching for the Bay Area, bike buddy matching, bicycling information. We also have carpool and green commute incentives that are available. Your employees can simply track their commutes in our trip diary and have a chance to win some great prizes every month. We provide telework and compressed work week information. We have a nationally known telework expert as one of our consultants who can help employers with developing policies and procedures, as well as training managers and employees, as well as other information. So we're here to answer any questions you might have regarding the program. I will turn it back over to Dave.
So thanks for your patience. This was just kind of a relatively quick overview of the program, but we are very excited about this new program. We see it as very much a win-win for both the Bay Area economy and the environment. As we discussed, there are potential savings for employers and employees. In addition, these kind of programs have been shown to be effective in helping to recruit and retain valuable employees. So benefits for both employers and the Bay Area environment. And as we said, you'll need to select a benefit, make that available by September 30th. So with no further ado, I think we'd like to open it up now for your questions. There is, as you see on this slide here, information about how to get further information on the program after this webinar is over, and certainly our assistance will be there on an ongoing basis all long as we go forward. So Tom, you're going to take us to the questions?
That's right, Dave, yes. Thanks, first of all, to you, our presenters, and for everyone listening in today. If you had any troubles listening or viewing this webinar, it will be posted on the Commuter Benefits webpage for you to download and listen to at your convenience. Also, the slides will be available with live links as well. Now, we invite the webinar listeners to ask questions by typing in questions in the GoToMeeting window. We appreciate your patience while we click through all of the questions and assemble our answers. We anticipate that there will be periods of silence here but please bear with us. Some questions will also be consolidated and may be rephrased for time's sake. The first question, though, I do have is one person wrote, I haven't received my employer ID yet. How do I access my business employer ID, and how do I register with it?
I'll take that one. Actually, they can call 511, go to the helpline for the Commuter Benefits Program. They can also get the direct number off of the 511 website by clicking on the Commuter Benefits Program, and we'll be happy to take their information and issue them a ID number, or we will tell them who that ID number was sent to at their organization. If they cannot locate that, they can provide us with an email from upper management at the organization designating who should receive that ID number, and we'll be happy to give it to them.
Thank you. Another question I received, and I'm reading this straight from the box, so the question reads, can an employer offer a subsidy at a certain amount that falls below option 1 or 2? Is the employer's cap out of compliance with the program because it's less than the, quote, up to maximum amount?
I could take that one. So that subsidy amount for purposes of option 2 is that the subsidy should either cover the cost of the employee's monthly pass, if that pass is less than $75, or be capped at $75 if the employee's monthly cost is more than $75. The question here is if an employer is offering a subsidy that's, let's say, capped at $50, would that comply for purposes of option 2? The way we're handling that is that option 2 is really written right into that authorizing legislation, SB 1339. We don't have any flexibility really with that number in terms of that $75 maximum. But if an employer is offering a subsidy with a lesser amount, they can potentially submit that through option 4C and potentially couple that subsidy with maybe a couple of the supporting measures that we have on the option 4 menu of measures, and we think that would be the most effective way to do it. So an employer that is offering a subsidy of a lesser amount should be able to comply, but we would need you to package that with a couple of supporting measures.
Can I just add that there is nothing to stop an employer from offering pre-tax dollars in addition to a subsidy. That is part of the federal law. So if they're offering the pre-tax dollars along with a subsidy, they're actually going to be in compliance.
That's right.
Thank you. Another question I see here is, what number should out-of-state employers call?
Out-of-state employers would call the local telephone number, which is on the last slide there, 510-273-3680. They can also just email as well, commuterbenefits@511.org, and the helpline specialist, Michelle Maw, would get back in touch with them. The supervisor would have my translator.
read the bottom line.
If we already have a pre-tax commuter benefit and provide details in our employee benefits package overview, what additional communications, if any, do we need to provide?
So if the employer is already providing a benefit and has already provided notice to employees about that, and if you inform your employees new employees at the time they're hired about those benefits, then you should be in compliance with the employee notification requirement. And then if you made any substantive changes to your commuter benefit package going forward, you should then notify them again at that time. And then we also will be asking employers to update your registration on an annual basis. We will ping employers when that annual update would be due, and we'll ask employers to provide employee notification at least on an annual basis just to remind them about the benefits that's available.
Are seasonal employees exempt from the headcount of 50 or more employees?
That's correct. So a seasonal employee is exempt both from the headcount for purposes of determining whether the employer is subject to the program, and then even if the employer is still subject to the program because they have more than 50 employees that are not seasonal, they don't need to provide the commuter benefit to those seasonal employees. They can do so voluntarily, but they would not be required to do so.
Thanks. Can you clarify and provide examples of the field worker definition? Our company is a vineyard management company, and most of our employees report to different vineyard locations twice or 3 times a week. Do they fall into the field worker category?
That sounds like a situation that would fall into the field worker category. The only caveat there being that assuming that the employee does not report to your headquarters or your office to pick up a vehicle that the employer is providing. But if they're using their own vehicle, let's say, and they're going around to different offices or field locations, then that would be consistent with the field employee definition, and they would be exempt.
Thanks, Dave. Next question. Can you elaborate on the electric vehicle implementation? I'm not sure if our current practices meet the implementation standard because there are so many choices and it's not clear if we must meet all aspects of the suggestion or if meeting it partially is all right. For example, we have 2 out of 5 fleet cars that are electric, and they are available for any employee to use for business purposes only. We have on-site charging stations for these fleet cars. Does this meet the primary electric vehicle requirement?
Let's say, yeah.
Thanks, Tom. It sounds like that the program that's described in this question would meet the electric vehicle implementation measure under option 4. At this point, we're trying to be pretty flexible in how we define and implement those measures for option 4. So it sounds like this would be considered compliant with option 4 as long as the employer here is also offering 2 secondary measures from that menu style list.
Excellent. And just by the way, thanks everyone for bearing with us as we review all these questions and assemble the answers. Our next question: our staff do work in shifts, so computer options are not available. What options do you recommend?
I'm assuming they actually meant commuter options.
Ah, yes. Sure.
I'm hoping. What I would say is for shift workers, certainly we can look at the work site, the number of employees there. We could look at the possibility of forming carpools or van pools. There may be other options available. It would depend on the type of work the company is doing. And certainly they should contact us. We'd be happy to help them figure out what makes the most sense.
Thank you, Linda. Next question. We have 3 summer associates for 3 months out of the year, but they are on our payroll. Are they eligible?
So if you have folks that are seasonal in nature, like in this case 3 months per year, they meet the seasonal or temporary exemption, and because they don't work more than 120 days per year. Those employees are considered exempt for purposes of the program. Now that said, an employer is certainly free to offer commuter benefits to folks that work a shorter time period, but that's not a requirement of the program.
Thanks, Dave. Next question. Our flex spending plan can't start until October 1st. Is that a problem?
We've determined that it's not a problem for employers to start their commuter benefit program on October 1st. We really encourage employers to do so by the deadline of September 30th, but October 1st is just one additional day, and that we've determined is fine for purposes of registering for the program.
Thank you. Next question. If we elect option 1, the pre-tax benefit, is the employer required to purchase the benefit, i.e. Clipper cards, or does the employee do this themselves?
I'll take that one. Under federal law, the federal government wants employers to provide the program through something like Clipper card, a voucher program, or whatever. If you choose to do it as a cash reimbursement program, you will need to keep documentation. That means you're going to have to keep either copies of receipts, copies of the monthly transit passes, and there's no guarantee that at some point in time the federal government will not come in and audit you. If you are utilizing one of the programs that's listed in the Commuter Benefits Guide, those programs are sanctioned by the federal government. They provide you reports. So Clipper card, TranBin vouchers, commuter check vouchers, all of those programs provide the employer with any substantiation they need for their tax purposes.
Thank you, Linda. Next question. Does your website link to a list of local service providers who support these programs?
Our website, on that website landing page that was mentioned earlier, includes a list of commuter benefit providers and others. That's located in the center of the website landing page. There are some green tabs on the right-hand side of the page, and you'll see one specifically that provides you with that list.
Thank you. Next question. Is there any special IRS reporting required for option 1, given that it's a pre-tax benefit? Is a plan document needed?
If an employer uses a third-party administrator, there are not reporting requirements for that employer. In fact, the third-party administrator will provide the employer with all the information that's needed for reporting by the IRS. And as Linda explained during the previous question, if the employer is only being distributed Clipper cards or transit vouchers or things of that nature, there won't be any discrepancy whether or not the employee is using the funds for transit or van pool because, in fact, they'll be handed those vouchers, so there's no discrepancy there.
And there actually is a simple form they need to be complete for their tax purposes. Their tax professional will be able to help them with that, but it is a much simpler process than a flexible spending account.
Thank you. Next question. We have employees in Vallejo and in Fairfield. Will we have to comply with this program?
So Vallejo and Fairfield are in the portion of Solano County that is within the Air District's our jurisdiction, so they would be subject to the program. The boundary line is essentially between Fairfield and Vacaville. So employers in Vacaville and Dixon and eastern part of Solano are not covered, but Vallejo and Fairfield are covered, yes.
Thanks, Dave. Next question, what is meant by transit? Does that just include things such as employees driving to work and gas expenses?
No. What that refers to is public transit, which is any of the bus and rail systems, ferry systems, Bay Area rapid transit, BART, any transit provided in the area, or a qualified van pool is also a part of that option. And a qualified van pool is any van pool that is listed with 511 or provided through one of the van pool leasing companies in the Bay Area. So if someone has a question about that, they can contact us. We can advise them as to whether or not a van pool is qualified. There are some employee-operated van pools that are just someone owning a van that have become qualified van pools. But not all vans provided by an individual are qualified.
Thank you, Linda. Next question. For multi-site employers, is it possible to choose different options for different locations?
We've put together the registration process to make this as flexible and easy as possible for employers. And one of the things that you can do during the registration process is actually indicate different benefits for each of your worksite locations if that's what you choose to do. At the same time, if an employer has multi-site locations and is providing the same benefit at all locations, they can just click this basically on once, indicating that they have providing it at all locations. So there is that built-in flexibility within the registration process.
Thank you. Next question. If we currently offer a commuter and parking transit FSA benefit, will that count towards an option under the Bay Area Commuter Benefits option?
It sounds like this employer is compliant with option 1.
If they're,
yes.
If they're providing the ability for an employee to use pre-tax dollars to pay for transit or van pool fares, that would be compliant with option 1. There's another provision in the federal tax code that allows an employer to provide parking on a tax-free basis, but that's not relevant to this particular program because we're not really trying, from our perspective, incentivizing parking is probably likely to encourage people to drive to the work site, and that's not consistent with what we're trying to accomplish here.
Thanks. Next question. What documentation must you provide to the Bay Area Commuter Benefits Program, and how often?
So the basic documentation required is just to go to the registration form on the website and complete that form. If you provide all the information needed in order to complete that form, then you'll essentially be in good shape. The other thing that an employer does need to do, however, is maintain records at the work site or in their human resources office or whatever is the appropriate location to document that whatever commuter benefit they are offering is in fact being provided, and also to show that they have provided notification to their employees. That's not required to be submitted, but that needs to be maintained on site in the event that we were to ask them to provide that documentation.
Thanks, Dave. Next question. We have a restaurant in the Bay Area located in a mall. Does this count for an on-site amenities under option 4?
I think because the employer is not doing anything to provide that amenity, we probably wouldn't count that as being compliant with one of the secondary options under option 4. We would encourage whoever submitted this question to contact us, and we can provide you with further guidance on what some appropriate secondary measures would be.
Thank you, Jackie. Next question. Does the employer choose only one and offer it to all employees, or do we choose more than one and offer a choice to the employees?
Employers are required to select one of those 4 commuter benefit options. So the way that that is structured, they can select the pre-tax option or one of the others. So they are not required to provide more than one. We certainly encourage that if an employer would like to do that, but they're just required to provide one of the commuter benefit options.
But it's common, for instance, if an employer is offering option 2, which is the subsidy, that subsidy may not cover the full fare that the employee is paying. Let's say if they're paying $150 for BART and the employer provides a subsidy $75. So it's common that an employer might couple options 1 and 2 there, so that the employee could, for the portion that they're paying, they could use pre-tax dollars to cover that.
Yes. The one thing to clarify in that, though, is an employee cannot receive more than the $130 pre-tax. Anything over $130 becomes taxable income to the employee.
Thank you all. Next question. If an employee defers money on a pre-tax basis, how does the employer buy the transit passes at a discount for the employee?
The employer, actually, what they can do, most employers do not purchase the transit passes themselves. They either provide the Clipper card and the employee takes the dollars on the Clipper card and orders what they want, or they provide them with vouchers and the employee takes those vouchers to wherever they purchase their monthly pass to use for their monthly pass. The one thing that needs to be reminded is an employer should never give an employee more money than they can use for their transit pass. No money will be given back in return. So if their transit pass is $70 and they give them $75 in vouchers, they won't get $5 back. That $5 will basically subsidize the transit agency. So you can never give more than you can use. You can never give more than a total of $130, whether it is pre-tax dollars from the employee and subsidy. But you can give up to that $130. $75 is what the Bay Area requirement maximum is. That doesn't mean you cannot give $130 as pre-tax dollars.
Thank you, Linda. Next question. We are a nonprofit, and a requirement of employment for our instructors is they must have a car for use at work. How does this program work for us?
Well, initially, without knowing the details on that, it sounds like these people might qualify as field employees, in which case they would be exempt from the program. Now, depending on whether, if you exclude those people, does the employer still have more than 50 full-time employees or not? It's possible that the employer would be not covered by the program, but based on that description, it sounds like the folks that need to have a car for use in the field would meet that field employee definition.
The other question would be whether those employees report to the office at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. If they do so, then they might be able to carpool to and from the work site with someone else.
Thank you. Next question. We have a biweekly payroll. Would the maximum amount per day, per pay period, be 12 times 130 divided by 26? How often can passes be purchased?
Can choose to take those pre-tax dollars out any way they choose. So they could take them all out of the first paycheck of the month. They could divide it over all paychecks given throughout the year. A pass can be purchased at the beginning of each month, a few days before the new month begins, as long as they do not go over the maximum allowed of 130 times 12 for the year. They're
back
fine.
and give the answer. Sorry.
Oh, I thought we were on.
Carry on, Linda. Yeah, we were. They heard all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Great. Thank you. Next question. What type of notice and how much notification is required? This includes things like posters, payroll stuffers, any kind of communication to staff.
We've asked employers to register for the program and provide the benefits to their employees by September 30th. So whatever makes the most sense for the employer as far as providing the notice to the employees, we just wanted to let you know that we have some materials available that's on the website landing page. There's the green tab there that says for your employees. There's some information there such as posters and other information that may be useful for you to get the word out to your employees about the commuter benefit option that you've selected. And also if you look in the employer guide, there is also some information such as an enrollment form to determine which benefit your employees are most interested in. The 511 Regional Rideshare Program outreach staff can assist you with surveys if you're wanting some help in determining what is the benefit that would work best for your company and for your employees.
But the bottom line is that there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how the employer chooses to provide the notification. On the registration form, there's some boxes you can check to, say this is the way I'm doing it, or if you have a better way of doing it. As long as you're doing something that is an effective way of reaching out to your employees within the, the culture of your organization, whatever makes sense.
Thanks. Next question. Can we start 2014 with one option as we work to implement another option for 2015 or 16?
Sure. An employer has the flexibility to select one option at the outset of the program and then potentially switch options at a later date. As we said, we want to be flexible here, and so that is certainly something that the employer could do.
I assume they just document the change. Is that right, Dave? From one to the next.
Well, they actually would be they would be registering with us annually, so they'll be provided with an email notice a year after they've registered, and they could indicate to us that they're making that change.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question. Can an employer offer a combination of option 1 and option 4? For example, can we mix the options?
Absolutely. If an employer offers option 1, they would be considered in compliance with the program, so any additional measures that they'd like to provide above and beyond that, we would encourage, and that's great. But simply by offering option 1, the employer is in compliance.
All right. The next question will be our last question. We will take all submitted questions and post them online with this webinar. This webinar, the questions, the slides, everything will be made available on the Commuter Benefits webpage that we've alluded to before. You can go to 511.org and click on the Commuter Benefits program to access all information. Finally, the last question. We offer the San Francisco Commuter Benefits program, but it looks like we need to change to the Bay Area program. Would the employees who are eligible for the San Francisco Commuter Benefits program also be eligible for the Bay Area Commuter Benefits program? They have different maximums. Do we need to have a separate program to address these concerns?
I think the basic answer is that the programs have some very minor differences in terms of definitions and all, but substantively they're very much the same. Options 1, 2, and 3 are the key options that are available under the San Francisco program. The regional program offers option 4 as an additional option. We could talk to these employers in more detail about the specific situation, but broadly speaking, an employer that has a program that's compliant with the San Francisco program should definitely be in compliance with our program, but they would need to go to our website and register and tell us which option they're selecting.
Thanks to everyone for listening in today to our webinar. Also a big thanks to our presenters for coming together to be a resource for you. You can visit the 511.org webpage and click on the Commuter Benefits Program website to access, again, all of these slides, this webinar, and answers to all of your questions that were posted today that we were unable to get to in this amount of time. But again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you.